Oh man, I've been waiting a long time for this interview. Drew, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Sathiya, let's go.
Hey, I was having flashbacks to probably 2019 when you reached out to me on Instagram via voice note, like, hey man, I've been helping guys quit porn for a year. I'm stepping out on the online world. Love what you're doing. Let's connect. And then I think we did a podcast swap very, very early on, if I'm remembering correctly. It's just crazy. It's crazy to think of what God has done in both of our lives. But I'm especially conscious of what he's done in your life, just having read your book, Outgrow Porn, that's getting ready to release here. And it's amazing, man. So anyways, I won't go too far down memory lane, but it's a treat to have you back here.
Yeah, and I remember praying and wishing, like, man, I hope Sathiya jumps into this full time. Like, what an impact that would make. And then look what's happened since then.
I know. That's crazy. That's right. I wasn't even full time at the time. It's crazy. You wrote a book, Outgrow Porn. Congratulations. Yes. How long have you been thinking about this? Yeah, I was just going to say, because it's been a while.
Worked on it for 4 years.
Wow.
Off and on. But it's really the outflow of Husband Material Academy, the online course that we've been taking men through since 2020, and continuing to see what resonates with guys who are really struggling with porn. Like, they've tried accountability software, going to different groups, 12-step meetings, professional counseling, and there's still something missing for a lot of these guys. So trying to really get to the core of what that is, and also making it as practical as possible, because it's one thing to understand why I have an attachment to porn. It's another thing to actually heal that.
Yes. And that's the actual work, right? Is healing it and the nuances that come with it. But you've also, like, I agree with exactly what you said, because you've had thousands of guys come through Husband Material Academy at this point, I'm assuming, right? That'd be fair to say?
Over 1,000.
Over 1,000.
And then our community is multiple thousands.
Yeah. Massive influence, man. And so you can just tell that the concepts you talk about in the book are driven by what you've seen, because they're just so relatable. They're so practical. You probably could have had dozens of stories for every single concept you teach in the book. And I think that's why this whole book is just incredible. And we need to get on the New York Times bestseller list. I'm convinced. We got to figure it out, man. It's so good.
Thanks, Sathiya. We need more stories of victory and freedom and redemption.
Yes.
There are a lot of stories of saying exactly how I struggled, and then somehow I got free. But to get detailed on what that really looks like gives us hope.
Yes. Why is your book called Outgrow Porn instead of Break Free from Porn, Quit Porn? Tell me a little bit about the Outgrow philosophy.
Well, it all starts with this one big idea, which is that for the most part, men don't get hooked on porn, boys do. If you think about when porn first came into your life, if I think about when porn first came into my life, we were kids.
Yeah.
Like, we were thinking that I wanted porn. I chose porn. No, before you chose porn, porn chose you. Before you hunted for porn, the predator was hunting for you. Porn exploits boys and girls from such a young age. And so if we want lasting freedom, we have to heal the boy to free the man. So outgrow porn means I am going to get unstuck in the places where I got stuck as a little boy. I'm going to resume my sexual and emotional development and become mature. That's what this is about. So Robert Masters coined the term outgrowing pornography. And I loved that language so much because it's not shaming, it's empowering. It's saying that, just like a pacifier, which you see on the cover of the book, it's possible to drop this thing because you just don't need it anymore because you've grown up. And that's not to say that temptation will completely go away, but it can lose its power.
Yeah, I agree. It's empowering. It also, I think we all know, nothing grows overnight. And I think sometimes the language around pornography usage and breaking up free of it can be very black and white and exact. And, it's like you have to quit now, cold turkey, and then just try to muscle your way through it. And you and I both know that really, the best success stories long-term generally are incremental and gradual. And you have leaps, right? Every once in a while you have a leap. but it's a lot of kind of just consistent growth, which happens gradually and then compounds and adds up over time. I really like the language.
Outgrowing porn is not like a computer transaction. It's like a farmer doing the work every day, trusting that underground things are happening, and we're going to see that. We're going to see that result. We create the space, God brings the transformation. It's more of an agricultural process, you might say.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So I know one thing that you have touched on a lot in your messaging, is really as long as I've known you, is the effects of purity culture and how they have kind of shaped and formed a lot of people's behaviors and concepts around sexuality, certainly people's relationship with pornography. In your book, you talk about the 5 effects of purity culture. And one thing you said that I really liked is often the conversation around purity culture these days is how it's affect girls and women, and rightfully so, because they were really the centerpiece, kind of the target of a lot of that messaging. But it's not to say that boys and men weren't affected either. Can you just talk us through this? Talk us through the 5 harmful effects of purity culture, and even what you've observed in HMA and Husband Material Academy. How are they impacting guys trying to quit pornography?
Unfortunately, purity culture presents the illusion of freedom. Just like porn presents the illusion of intimacy and the illusion of connection, purity culture presents the illusion of freedom. And it does that by doing 5 things. Number 1, instilling toxic shame. Sex is bad, sex is gross. If you do something that goes against God's design for sexuality, then you're impure. And as a result of that toxic shame, number 2 is repressed sexuality, feeling the need to shut down my sexual thoughts and feelings because they're bad. How do we do that? With number 3, a military mindset. And you see this in a lot of messaging from porn recovery programs. It's this warrior mindset. And there's a place for that. Like, I actually think that warrior mindset helped me out a lot at the beginning of this journey, and it was limited because it kept me in a place of feeling like I need to fight against my sexuality. And the more we fight against sexual urges and fantasies, the stronger they get.
Yeah.
So that military mindset is self-defeating. But the way to enforce it is through number 4, cultures of control. In a lot of groups, the focus is on trying to create restrictions and prohibitions, almost like creating a new prison cell.
Yeah, right.
It's like trading the prison cell of porn for the prison cell of purity culture. Just trying to stay away from anything sexually tempting. And ultimately, if you succeed within that system, the result is number 5, false promises. I wonder if you received similar messages to me when I was growing up. Abstinence educators would come and say, if you don't have sex until you're married, it'll be so satisfying, it'll be so great.
That wedding night, all fireworks, baby.
Yeah. And so I resolved to hold my breath sexually till I got married. And and that actually set me up to be very disappointed, devastated, and ultimately even more attached to my sexual fantasies once I got married, because sex wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
And so that's another piece of purity culture, is making these false promises of marriage will solve it. Just obey God, and then you'll get something sexually. It's almost like a sexual prosperity gospel.
Yeah.
And so I'm convinced that even if you didn't grow up in purity culture, some of those things like toxic shame probably still resonate with you. And this is part of what sets us up to struggle with porn. So if we want to outgrow porn, we also have to outgrow purity culture.
Yeah. And I do think, I mean, I don't know who's coming through HMA, but I know for us, a lot of the clients that we have served over the years grew up in it. They grew up in purity culture, between the home, youth groups, youth conferences, the purity rings, the whatever it is, like all the different things. This messaging was very strong. How does it? So I think I understand the first part of it here, which is purity culture can really create a bad relationship with your own sexuality. It can keep you more hooked on pornography and other compulsions. But I also understand that purity culture actually can really stop people from healing. It can stop them from, like, in some, I guess in theory, if somebody came with no purity culture programming and you were just had a clean slate or more or less a clean slate and you could teach them how to heal from pornography, to outgrow porn, it might actually be easier in some ways because you wouldn't have some of the blocks that have come from purity culture. Can
Right.
you touch on that a little bit? Like, how does somebody who hears that list say, oh man, you just read my mail. That's me. That's my story. That's what I'm dealing with. That's why I can't quit. That's why I can't outgrow porn. What do they do to kind of outgrow some of this stuff and get past some of those mental barriers?
Well, the first thing is to talk about it. It's to actually open up, not just about your relationship with porn, but specific types of porn that you've pursued, because that's where the shame lies. The power of the shame is in the particularity of sexual fantasies and types of porn that we've watched. And so you can already I can feel it in my body, how much more difficult it is to talk about that. And a lot of times the reasons why we don't are rooted in purity culture. Like, this is a sin. I shouldn't focus on it. I should just read my Bible and look to Jesus and pray. Like, rather than really look at the details of what we're dealing with and to not be afraid to also see what's underneath that. Where is that coming from in my life? And believing that even if I don't understand why I struggle with a specific type of porn, there is a story behind it. And it does make sense. And so being able to look at that, not to focus on the fantasies, but to learn why they're there, is huge. And so that's a big piece of it. And then another piece of it is really being open to a culture of connection instead of a culture of control. Instead of a group where we're just keeping track of each other's behaviors and praying for each other and trying to fix each other, like, truly being known and loved is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
So if you can get over some of the obstacles to being able to be fully, truly vulnerable, wow, that goes a long way. And I would add, there's a difference between being transparent and being vulnerable.
Okay.
So if you go to the zoo, what would be an animal you would be afraid to see, perhaps, or fascinated by?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, both. Yeah, tiger would be both for sure.
All right. So if you're at the tiger exhibit and you're looking at the tiger from behind a thick pane of glass, you are visible, but you are not vulnerable. Take away the glass, now you're vulnerable. Now you're in the arena. The word vulnus in Latin means wound. So to be vulnerable means to be woundable. We have to become woundable if we want to be healable. I can't just tell somebody what I'm struggling with. I have to actually put myself in a position where they can hurt me or heal me depending on how they respond.
Yeah. Wow.
That's vulnerability.
So if we translate that into this concept, like, is that where the particularities come in? Transparency could be, I'm struggling with pornography. I've had the struggle for a long time, but maybe especially like in our communities, that's actually, I mean, it still requires vulnerability. I don't want to take away from the courage it requires.
Right.
But there's a different measure that's available when somebody says, hey, I'm actually a married man that watches gay pornography, or I watch, for me, like, I used to watch a lot of MILF content, and that, I'm guessing that's what you're talking about, where it's like that's what actually removes the glass, because that's, in some ways, you're more exposed, which means there is more potential for wounding, as it were, but that's also the only environment where you could actually heal.
Right. So being specific about your fantasies will take vulnerability to the next level. For me, it was always a sexual fetish for girls and women with braces. And that was always the core of what I would search for, what I would focus on and fantasize about, even though I had no idea why at the beginning. There's also more to it than that. For example, it's more vulnerable to show up at an in-person weekend than an online program.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you're there physically. You're taking a bigger redemptive risk by actually going there. And then there's probably more healing possible when you're in person. Another example of taking the vulnerability to the next level would be not just opening up about the fantasies, but what's underneath that for you. For example, childhood experiences of abuse. I mean, it is so, so difficult for any man to identify as a survivor of sexual abuse. So we think of being a victim as weak, as being less than masculine. And so for us to open up about how we've been hurt, how we've been wounded is so difficult. And if I do that, I run the risk of being dismissed or being responded to with something less than compassion and love and care. And so I think that's another aspect of vulnerability, is to open up about our specific wounding and our specific stories of being abandoned or enmeshed or abused. And I would add that anyone who was introduced to porn at a young age is a survivor of sexual abuse.
Hmm.
Porn vandalizes the sexuality of young boys and girls.
Yeah.
And it's very good at making us think that it's all my fault. I'm the one who wanted this, who chose this. When in reality, for kids, porn is sexual abuse, period.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and it's true. It's not, and we're not saying just if some, older uncle was the one who put on the VHS or gave you the mag. We're just talking about the industry at large. Is they know what they're doing, right? And it's not a coincidence that we encounter pornography at such young ages.
And that is why so many laws are being passed as we speak about age verification.
Because minors have been so unprotected in this crazy, wild, wild west online sexualized world. Yeah.
And porn is introducing fantasies and things that people never would have thought of or wanted to watch until they were prompted by porn.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So I would say it actually vandalized the arousal template of my whole generation.
And is vandalizing the arousal template of another generation now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for future generations, their first sexual or romantic relationship might be with an AI chatbot.
That's wild. Yeah, that's wild.
So we're getting further and further away from real human intimacy. Like, I sexually imprinted onto images on a screen. When I was 13 years old, the focus of my first orgasms burned into my brain. And that's part of why I wasn't able to sexually engage with my wife at the start, because she was a real person, not an image or a video or a thought in my head. I think that's another way that purity culture inhibits sexual development, by using fear and shame to keep us out of like healthy, developmental, innocent sexual exploration from teenage years, of like learning to actually connect with a real person,
Yes. Yeah, it steals that curiosity, right? Because if you think about God's design of it, curiosity, especially from the male perspective, like I think men are generally curious. And we had a former OnlyFans recruiter who met Jesus, left her job, and is now doing something totally different. It's a really cool story. Her name is Victoria Sinis. And I asked her, because basically they would hire these, or they would work with these models, and they would handle their chat support. They would handle basically all the back end, and it's all strategy, right? There's all strategy behind who they target and how they get customers coming back. And I asked her, like, what's the quality? Like, what is it about men that would keep them coming back? Or what are you trying to engage with them through the content and the chat and everything? And she said, that's easy. It's their curiosity. In the chat, we're helping them imagine things. We're getting them to fantasize about, us doing something together, us being the model and the client. It's all trying to capture their curiosity, which is God designed, but is robbed by an OnlyFans experience. But like you said, even younger, when you've been exposed to pornography, then you get married and you have your actual, like, real life sexual experiences. It's not driven by curiosity. It oftentimes, unless you've been informed, it's driven by the template that porn created, and you trying to match your experiences to what you think it should look like based on pornography.
Yeah, that's so well said. And curiosity is good.
Yeah.
Like, God made us to want to know what he made when it comes to sex and bodies. And so, like, evil has hijacked that. I wanted to add that it's a normal stage of sexual development that was stunted for many of us because we didn't have a safe place to ask all our curious questions when we were kids. And that's where porn exploited us, and that's where, an OnlyFans experience might also get a lot of power. Curiosity can also be part of our healing and freedom when we flip it around and get curious about ourselves, about where some of the origins of all this might be. And why do I go to certain things? Why am I triggered by certain people? And so it can actually be redeemed and a path to self-awareness.
I so agree with that. Yes. Really, really good point. And I think that's where even the vulnerability, transparency thing comes in, because I think when you have healthy community and you're having healthy, vulnerable relationships, curiosity is what actually drives a lot of that connection that heals and that allows our hearts to grow and eventually outgrow pornography. For somebody who is hearing what we're saying about vulnerability, and obviously that's something that is paramount to the communities that we're trying to build and everything else. But I know I ran a master class last week, and something that a bunch of the attendees said when it comes to the idea of sharing about their struggles or their stories with somebody else is, I've tried that before and it didn't work. Somebody judged me. They didn't get it. They just gave me the slapstick, cliche Christianese advice. How does somebody muster up the courage to maybe do this again? Because I think you and I could both attest, like in our communities, those are not the experiences that people are having, but their stories are real and those experiences are real. The blocks of, can I really risk this again? It hurts so much to be vulnerable and to get wounded, right? As you're saying, like the Latin word there kind of implies that that's part of the risk. How does somebody take that risk again?
Baby steps. And there are no baby steps. Every step is huge toward hope. Sathiya, we were just talking about how not every place is going to be safe enough to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And in fact, probably most places
Yes.
are not going to be able to hold you and your story the way that Deep Clean or husband material will be able to hold you. Like a lot of people who are well-meaning and well-intentioned are going to not give you what you need or give you what you don't need. More shame, more fear and control, more surface level solutions. Like, I hope that the work we're doing will make safety to share your story more common.
Yeah.
Maybe even the norm.
Yeah.
But it also, I think, starts with hearing somebody share their story first. So one clue that a space is safe is when the leader is willing to say, I have not arrived at the final destination of total freedom. Here's what I'm struggling with now. And frankly, Sathiya, as my book is coming out, I fully expect to be more tempted to go back to porn than I have in years. We talk about how emotional pain can prompt us to sexually act out. I also think that success can be just as strong of a trigger to
Yeah.
self-sabotage.
Yeah. That was actually something that I wrote a note about in your book, because you talked about, I think it was in chapter 1 or 2, how a good day or a really exciting experience could lead someone to watch porn just as much as a hard day, right?
Yeah, so I'm in the middle of that right now. Am I going to allow myself to feel the good feelings that come from this? Because joy is a vulnerable emotion. If you allow yourself to really be happy and to just enjoy something, what if it doesn't last? What if it's not real? There are all kinds of uncertainties around joy, whereas shame has an aspect of absolute certainty. Like I
Yeah.
know without a shadow of a doubt
Yeah.
that I'm disgusting or I'm worthless. There's a certainty with shame that we're drawn to sometimes, and an uncertainty about joy and connection that feels uncomfortable. So part of growing and healing is learning to receive what's good.
So what are you doing? Like, because this is like a really good, cool case study, because you kind of know what's coming. Because at the time of recording this, your book is not out yet, but it's about to, and you're aware of the euphoria and the excitement that's going to come with it. Are you doing anything actively to prepare for it, or how do you? Yeah, I guess how are you navigating your awareness that there's going to be maybe some more temptation coming up for you?
Yeah, so this is one of the beautiful fruits of doing this work and processing it all for years and years. So I've learned to anticipate when I'm likely to be at risk of relapse. No matter how far I go down the road, I'm still a few steps away from the ditch. And so I've learned to know, like, hey, this is going to be a really tough part of the road. When I published my first resource, In 2017, I was on the edge of looking up explicit content online right before going to my book release party. It was so real. I thought, well, then no one will know. Everyone will think that I'm great, but I can have the comfortable assurance that, yeah, I'm not the person they think, and just have that settled. So that's where I was at in 2017. And so now, looking forward to this next threat, I'm going to call my closest companions. I'm going to talk about it, process it. I'm probably going to set up some therapy appointments. I'm ready to deal with whatever's coming up. And that's the key, to welcome these feelings rather than trying to avoid them.
Yeah.
Or just not being aware of them at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretending they don't exist.
Yeah. Or on the other hand, trying as hard as I can to make them go away, that just intensifies those feelings.
Yeah. And even if you did successfully suppress them, they would eventually reappear.
Yeah, they would. And to be clear, I believe spiritual warfare is real, and that's a part of it. I don't want to confuse spiritual warfare against evil with spiritual warfare against my emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to know the real enemy in spiritual warfare.
Right. So when we treat our sexual thoughts and feelings as the enemy, we are unintentionally fighting a war against ourselves that we can never win. What I say in the book is, you can stop battling your sexuality and you can start befriending your sexuality.
It's beautiful. And you use a really nice metaphor. You tell a story. You're very adventurous, by the way. The more stories you tell, and even you told a story before we hit record that I'm going to save for the end because it's so good. But you tell a story about surfing, and when you were first learning how to surf, you were being taught, or you were fighting the ocean, right? Trying to make it happen, the frustration that comes with it, and what your instructor told you. And I should mention now, just really quick, because we keep referencing the book. For people who are listening to this that do want the book, if you use the code DEEPCLEAN on Drew's website, we'll put a link in the show notes. You can get a copy of this book discounted, and that's just Drew's gift to our audience. So thank you for doing that. But I do want to, because these stories, these concepts are obviously amazing. I know you guys want to get your hands on it. So Deep Clean, all one word. That'll give you a discount in the book. But if you don't mind, can you unpack that a little bit more? Just the leaning into letting the waves come, letting the waves lead you almost a little bit, instead of fighting them.
Yeah, my Costa Rican surfing instructor said, Drew, you will never win if you swim directly against those waves. They're too strong. They're too powerful. And isn't that true of our sexuality? Like, God made it to be so powerful that, like, it is stronger than us. It is. That's why we need to learn to work with it. So instead of going directly against the waves, he guided me to allow them to pass through me, and to go maybe at more of an angle so that I'm somewhat moving with them. And eventually I got where I wanted to go. And so the technical term for what this looks like when you're pursuing freedom from porn is urge surfing. A sexual urge is like a wave. It gets stronger, it rises, it crests, it feels overwhelming, and like, is it just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger? And then it falls and it fades. And if we allow it to run its course, sexual urges will dissipate within 30 minutes. But if you resist them, and if you attack those feelings, or if you just try to ignore them or avoid them, like I've done so many times, they just get stronger and stronger. It snowballs into an avalanche. It starts like this train that feels inevitable, whether it's in a few hours or in a few days. I am not going to be able to take it anymore. That's what happens when we're swimming against the waves of our sexual energy. But when you learn to move with those waves, you can say, wow, I'm feeling the urge to watch porn right now. Isn't that fascinating? I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to flee it. I'm going to be with it
Mm.
and let it come. And maybe it's trying to tell me something about my childhood. Maybe it's trying to tell me something about my marriage. Maybe it's trying to tell me something about how I'm really feeling about this book launch. We can be curious about that. And then, like, it will run its course.
Yeah.
So I have a technique that can help you surf those urges. Think
Lay
about
it
it as
on
a
us.
surfboard.
Yes.
And it's called Boa, B-O-A. I know it's my last name.
I was going to say, I love it. First thing
Hopefully-
I thought of when I read in the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like genius.
It can be memorable. So when you think, what would Drew Boa want me to do? Boa, B-O-A, breathe, observe, attune.
Okay.
You can do Boa in 10 seconds. You can do it in 10 minutes. Breathe. That's our superpower for self-regulation. It plugs your prefrontal cortex back in, which is the part of your brain responsible for moral decision-making and impulse control. I know you're familiar with the power of breath work.
Yeah.
When we have intense thoughts or feelings, we can breathe through it.
Yes.
It's like diving into the wave instead of trying to fight it. And then observe is mindfulness. There are so many great mindfulness approaches and resources out there, but it's essentially be with the arousal.
Yes.
Be with the fear instead of just being afraid. Be with the shame instead of just being ashamed. Instead of just being aroused, be with the arousal. Learn to name our feelings, like the feelings wheel. Learning to also just get in touch with our five senses, because porn takes us out of our bodies. So when we learn to observe our physical senses, we're coming back into our bodies. Like, I can see Sathiya's face on the screen while we're recording right now. Even that can be grounding. So simply observe, notice without judgment. And then A stands for attune. Attune means get in touch with what you really need. The term attunement means being in tune with someone or something. And in the context of childcare, it means, what does this kid really need? Does he have a poopy diaper and it needs to be changed? Or is he tired? Is he hungry? What's causing this temper tantrum that this little kid is having and wanting to attune to whatever the real need is? Well, we need to learn how to do that with myself. Underneath this sexual urge, what's really going on? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Am I frustrated? Am I feeling hurt? What's really going on? And attuning to your inner child, or attuning to the part of you that feels the urge to use porn.
Yeah.
And meeting those deeper attachment needs.
Yes.
And that could be calling a friend. It could be going for a walk, but something that actually deals with the cause, not just the symptom.
Yeah.
So BOA, breathe, observe, attune. That's a great shorthand, portable tool you can take with you.
I love it. I love a good framework, but the fact that you worked it into your last name, I'm inspired. I need a Sam framework.
We need Sam, SAM.
Yeah, I got to work on that. It's right there. I don't know how I missed it all along. I love it. So Boa sounds like something that what I like about it is people could do it, like you said, in the moment. In 10 seconds, you could go through all 3 steps if that's all you got. You're in a public place or you're at work or something like that. But you could obviously take some more time. And it sounds like the last step, attune, is what can really lead you into some of the deeper elements of healing. I think it's chapter 3 of your book, which is called Every Trigger Tells a Story.
Yes.
And I actually wanted to ask you a little bit more about that, because I think even the braces example used before, orthodontics being part of the content you watched, and your arousal template and something to work through. If somebody's identified something like that, there's a trend, there's a pattern, there's some specifics about the content that they consume, and they want to kind of go a layer deeper, and they want to figure out what that story is underneath. Can you just talk a little bit about that? And I've seen, I don't know if you, I actually don't even know what your opinion is on this, but I've seen the stuff of like, if you watch this kind of content, it means this issue, that kind of thing. I'm personally not a fan of it. We don't use anything like that. We like the individual approach, and everyone's different. But also To be honest, even if it was true, like with enough empirical evidence, I probably wouldn't use it because I like people going through their own journey of discovering it for themselves. I just think there's more value there. But anyways, that aside, how does somebody take the next step now to say, okay, this is my trigger, this is my thing, and I want to start tackling the story that's going on underneath?
Mm-hmm. Man, great question. I'm going to give you two answers.
Okay.
First, if you're feeling a pain trigger, then my questions will be different than if you're feeling a pleasure trigger.
Okay.
So there are actually two types of triggers that I describe: pain triggers and pleasure triggers. A pain trigger is a situation that feels not just annoying, but absolutely infuriating, or not just disappointing, but absolutely devastating. Like the emotions that you're feeling are disproportionate to the event. You ever had that?
Dude, I had that last week. I'm still in my devastation as we speak, real time. I can tell you off camera what it's about, but yes.
Yeah.
I know exactly
We
what you're
all
talking
have
about.
those types of triggers, right?
Yeah.
Little things, seemingly little things that set us off, that create a huge reaction. And it could be something that's very outwardly expressive, or it could just be something that makes you shut down, numb out, and turn off. For me, that would be immediately I'm going to my phone. Just reflexively, my system is saying, I don't want to deal with this. I'm escaping into the screen. So we all have those little pain triggers. And we also have pleasure triggers. And we hinted at this earlier, specific things that turn us on. A type of person that feels not just attractive, but irresistible. Like it's normal to be attracted to all kinds of different people. God made so much beauty in human bodies and in the world around us. And yet there are certain things often that feel magical. And when you have a disproportionate reaction, either emotionally or sexually, that tells you there's a story. It tells you there's something underneath this. So how do you find what that story is? For pain triggers, you ask this question: when have I felt this way before? However I'm feeling, and whatever lie is going through my head, when have I felt this way before? Because maybe that lie was true at one time, or maybe it felt true at one time. For example, if the thought in my head is, I'll never get anything right, when have I felt that way before? Or if the thought in my head is, I am just not good enough, or no one really wants me, no one really sees me or knows me, when have I felt that way before? And that will start the train of transforming your triggers into trailheads, opportunities for healing. And then the other question for pleasure triggers is, yes, when have I felt this way before? Like, when have I seen this kind of person before? Or when have I had a sexual experience with this type of thing before? And when have I felt the exact opposite? So if the woman with braces makes me feel excited and accepted, when have I felt the opposite of those things? So the opposite of excitement would be boredom. The opposite of acceptance would be rejection. So when have I felt bored and rejected? Oh man, that takes me right back to middle school. And that's where my arousal template really fixated on girls with braces. So our triggers can actually help us heal. They don't have to be threats. Triggers don't have to be tyrants that tell us what to do. And when we learn to ask these questions, wow, we can learn a lot.
Very helpful. Very good distinction as well. And one thing I like about that question too, like when have I felt this way before? It doesn't put pressure on when's the first time or the earliest time, which obviously is like very helpful. But I know for me, as somebody who's just had a very hard time accessing things before the age of 7, like I have memories, but not a lot. that kind of questioning has been really helpful.
Yeah. And it can be, when have I felt this way earlier in the day, earlier in the week, or earlier in adulthood or childhood? Like, the scientific way of looking at this is accessing your implicit memories or your body memories.
Right.
So when you get triggered and a situation is disproportionately affecting you, that is activating your implicit memory, body memory, which is automatic. It is effortless. It is re-experiencing events, not just remembering facts. And so without even knowing it, I feel like I'm a little boy again, or I feel like I'm a teenager again. You know, I'm talking to my mom, but sorry, I'm talking to my wife, but I feel like I'm talking to my mom.
Yeah.
There it is. You know?
Sick of endless relapse cycles? There's a better way. On August 28th at 8 p.m. EST, I'm hosting a free masterclass live to help you quit porn forever. Without filters, willpower tricks, or shame. You'll discover why traditional solutions have failed, how to get to your root issues, and the 3 biblical skills that give real freedom. This workshop won't be recorded, and you don't need to turn on your camera. It's private, powerful, and free. Reserve your spot now and start walking in freedom with brothers who get it. I'll see you on the 28th.
I'm trying to get connected with this group of guys, but I feel like I'm on the hockey team again, watching other kids have fun together, and I don't belong. Like that kind of thing. When we start to make those implicit memories explicit, and like, oh, now I know why I'm feeling this way, or what's happening within me, then we can work with it. We can't change anything if we're not aware of it.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, that's helpful, and I think that line of questioning leads really nicely into inner child work itself, and some of those things that you talk about in the book, which I'm going to reserve for the book because I think the book really explains it well, and we've talked about some of these things on here before as well, so people can go and look at other content, and obviously you talk about on your podcast all the time as well. I did want to ask you about, you mentioned something, this really grabbed me. And I think this was in, I think you were referencing maybe, but it's Patrick Carnes. I'm actually forgetting now, forgive me, but you'll know as soon as I mention it. 2 predictors of sex addiction, rigidity and disengagement.
Right.
And that really jumped out to me. Not that I've never thought about that before, but I just appreciate the conciseness, because I think most people would resonate with one, if not both of those, that are struggling with porn addiction, sex addiction, even just compulsive affairs or infidelity or whatever it might be. Can you just unpack that a little bit more? Why do rigidity and disengagement predict so accurately whether or not somebody would have a sex addiction in their adult years?
Man, I love being interviewed by you. Just awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Great questions. Rigidity refers to strict rules and severe punishments. In a rigid system, like a rigid family or a rigid workplace, rules are more important than relationships. And that will naturally lead a kid to a very righteous feeling of wanting to rebel. When rules are more important than relationships, we're hardwired to want to break the rules, especially in a way that could get me relationships or a feeling of connection. So right there, you already have a great setup for secret sexual activity.
Yeah.
Something that feeds my need to break out of this strict, severe system. Could be a moral system, could be a Christian system, and get me some level of relationship. And that's where disengagement comes in. Disengagement is just feeling alone, on my own. In my family, it was living in a big house, which was nice, and also like everyone was in their own separate world. We were far away from each other. And when we talked, we never really connected at a heart level. So for many of us, disengagement was just normal life. We didn't know anything different. I remember when I was 18, I had a conversation with my dorm room resident assistant where he just asked me questions, and that was it. And it blew my mind because it was the first time anyone in my life had ever actually just wanted to get to know me and then didn't have an agenda, didn't have like solutions for my problems that I was facing. Like I just felt wanted just for me. It was incredible. And I was like, wait, what was I experiencing for the last 18 years? Whatever we grow up and we think it's normal. And so that makes it hard to look back at our family system. When you think, well, what if I had a great childhood? What if my parents loved me a lot? Well, that can be true and still be rigid and disengaged.
Yeah.
So porn offers this appeal of breaking the rules for rigidity, and it also offers this appeal of a counterfeit connection if you felt disengaged.
It makes a lot of sense. The rigidity is interesting too. It kind of ties into what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation, because you've named your book Outgrow Porn, which is very non-rigid language, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's kind of the opposite approach there, and it does make sense that you need to combat those dynamics. And at the heart of it, it's relationship, right? Like rigidity is so problematic because it basically makes relationship a second-rate priority. And disengagement is the lack of any kind of meaningful relationship development. So it makes sense.
It totally does. And it also makes sense why purity culture makes the problem worse, because the average porn recovery group is rigid and disengaged. It's reenacting those dynamics, right? It's like, okay, guys, how'd you do this week?
Right.
Now, that is not a bad question, but it can be experienced as, well, I hope I was a good boy.
Yeah.
It can be experienced as, well, either I'm doing better than everybody else or I'm doing worse than everybody else.
Yeah.
And so there can be a rigidity in porn recovery groups and also disengagement. If you never get to the heart level feelings of what guys are going through.
Dude, that's pretty profound, actually. It's really amazing to me. I had a revelation kind of in a different arena, but it's amazing how so often our solutions in this area just reinforce the problem. And my revelation was more around people that are trying to rewire their brain or reboot their brain as quickly as possible. And it's like, dude, as long as you're trying to do something as quickly as possible in the recovery space, you will literally just reinforce the issue. Because that's what porn says, is you can get your pleasure and you can get everything you want as quickly as possible. So
immediate gratification.
Yeah. So we just basically take that issue and that compulsion for immediate gratification for porn and translate it over into immediate solutions and quick fixes and get me free of this thing as quickly as possible. And no wonder we're still stuck when it's all said and done.
Mind blown.
Yeah. But I think what you just said is actually an even deeper layer of that, of even though there's even systems and solutions that are not quick fixes, but they still have the rigidity and the disengagement, right? They maybe have the transparency like we were talking about, but they don't have the vulnerability. And all of that is self-reinforcing of the same environment that created the addiction in the first place.
This explains why so many guys have been at this for so long and still feel extremely stuck.
So let's talk to that guy. What should that guy do then with the information that we're presenting here?
First of all, take a deep breath. Boa, right?
Yeah.
Notice what feelings are coming up within you. And my heart goes out to that guy. I don't have some kind of perfect magic bullet advice for you. I just want you to know my heart breaks and like what you've been through is hell. And I'm so sorry that places that you've looked to for healing only deepened your shame. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with you if you're still stuck after 10 years of trying to get free. Maybe there's a different approach. Or maybe you have healed and you have grown and there's more, and that approach of purity culture or the programs you've done, like they've taken you a long way. And I don't want to invalidate all the growth and all the transformation that's already occurred. And like, man, there's even more available.
That's really well said. Because I think a lot of people, like we've all felt regret or remorse over our struggles, right? And where could we be in life, and if this wouldn't have happened. And I think that what you just said there is so important. Just that every effort you've made, even the ones that maybe haven't had the exact outcome that you wanted, they still play a role. They still mean something, right? And God uses all of it. Even I think of some of the stuff I tried when I was trying to quit initially that were just not, they were bound to fail, but they still help me. They help me get started.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, even just seeing yourself put energy into something reinforces like this matters to me. This is actually
Yes.
important. You know,
Yeah.
and that reinforcement alone was worth it. Sometimes when I tried something like an internet filter that didn't work, but it got me going.
Right. And it prepared you for what came next.
Yes.
So I used to lead purity culture groups. my first curriculum that I ever went through back in 2010 talked about sharing your lustimony.
Lustimony? No. Oh no.
It's so cringy. It's like, let's go around and share our lustimonies, you know?
So
Like,
then would that be like they wanted people transparently sharing about what they've struggled with?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I mean, it was just an extreme example of like the quality of resources back then versus now.
Yeah,
Um,
come a long way.
yeah. So even though porn has come a long way since then, like also recovery and healing has come a long
Yes.
way too.
Yes, yes, yes.
And there are better programs than ever. I'm really excited about your new membership program,
Oh, thanks.
Deep Clean Inner Circle, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, man, I wish that existed 15 years ago. And for anybody who's struggling with this now, take advantage.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a gift. It is a gift. And I think you and I are fortunate. Like if we were born, or if we started 10 years earlier and were born 10 years earlier, uh, different battles, right? Like different hill to climb. The last chapter of your book, by the way, this is one of those books that is worth reading to the end because not all books are like that. You and I read a lot, and we know like sometimes you just get all the gold up front. But the last chapter I thought was really smartly done because I think a lot of the things that people want when it comes to recovery, like I just talked about a few minutes ago, they give me the quick fix. What's the thing I should do for the next 30 days? All of that stuff people want. And then, but you and I both know that it's not really what they need. And I felt like the way you wrote the book, you really gave people what they need in a very digestible, easy to understand and applicable way. It's very easy to just kind of go through it. And then I love the last chapter. It was just like a blitz of like, okay, but here's some of the stuff that you did want. And it's really power packed. It's really practical. It's really helpful. And I think it really ties everything in very nicely together. Again, don't have time to go through all of it. But one thing you talked about was taking redemptive risks. And I love the language. I love the concept. I was just coaching a guy this week who is at that stage where he's really done some very deep healing. He's in a completely different place than he was just a year ago. And he's ready to start taking some redemptive risks, like to arouse that curiosity again, as it were, to be more adventurous and to really like not be afraid, not be apologetic about who God has made him to be. And it's just the stuff that fires me up. It's the stuff that makes what can be a very long and arduous process with coaching. It makes it so worth it. I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about redemptive risk. You use some personal examples in the book. You gave a great personal example before we hit record here. You can jump into whatever you want there, but I'd love to just hear your thoughts on this because I think it's such a powerful concept.
Yeah. Well, porn is partially appealing from a sense of a risk, like, ooh, what's this going to be? And yet I think it derives even more appeal from certainty. Like, exactly what you're going to get.
Hmm.
The details might be different, yet it's something that you can rely on. So part of what we need to do, and I think what everyone really needs to do in this space, is learn how to take a redemptive risk, a risk toward the life I really want, or a risk of being the person I really am. It could be the risk to go get help. It could be the risk to go start something that you've been afraid to try. It could be the risk of going out and like helping other people with something. But in any case, It requires you to face your fear and step out anyway.
Yeah.
You know? And like, man, I think any step toward lasting freedom from porn involves redemptive risk.
Yeah.
So an example for me was when I lived in Santa Barbara, California, I used to go swimming in the ocean. Open water, not too far from the shore. I often felt afraid of going into the deeper water, especially when I was swimming by myself, just knowing that like great white sharks live here.
No big
And
deal.
so one day I was in the water up to my waist, looking out at the beach and the mountains. I looked down and I saw this massive fish right in front of me, between me and the beach. It was a juvenile great white shark.
Whew.
I ran out of the water, but I don't even remember that because I went into shock. I was cursing like a sailor. I would not go back in the water for weeks. I thought about, okay, what do I really want here? I love swimming in the ocean, and for me, the redemptive risk was getting back in the water. First with a friend, first just in the shallows, and when we've been hurt, when we felt a lot of shame, when we've been trying and trying and trying for years to get free from porn, it's easy to want to give up. And my gentle encouragement is to get back in the water. You are worth it.
It's amazing. Well said. And I think you'll attest to this. When people do some of the things we talked about in this interview today, whether you're just getting ankle deep, starting out with Boa, that simple framework just to handle those real-time temptations, whether you're trying to figure out the stories underneath your triggers, whether you're going through inner child work and really getting into the depths of it, all of that is inherently a risk. So bravo, right? You're taking your risks. And the amazing byproduct is you will want to take more risks when all is said and done. And you heal, you discover who God made you to be.
Yes. And even when a redemptive risk seems to go wrong, you can still find a way to grow from it and say, you know what? I survived.
Yeah.
Like, I'm stronger than I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe I can handle disappointment and it doesn't have to define me.
It's so true.
You know?
It's so true.
Even when a risk goes wrong, it can still be redemptive.
Yes. Yes. I haven't said this in a while, but I used to have a saying that the reward is in the risk and the outcome is a bonus.
I like that. That's great.
Right? It's the risk itself. That's the actual reward.
Because taking the risk is making a decision in alignment with your values. And that is worth celebrating.
Yeah.
Every step of this journey is worth celebrating.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Such a great message. The book is amazing. It's called Outgrow Porn. People can use the Deep Clean discount code
at outgrowporn.com.
At outgrowporn.com. Thank you. So we'll have that link in there. We'll put the code in the show notes as well. It's Deep Clean, all one word. If people want to find out just more about husband material and what you're up to, Drew, what are some other ways they can do that?
Yeah, they can go to husbandmaterial.com. We have a weekly podcast, free private community, online academy, and retreats that are all focused on healing the boy to free the man.
Come on. Amazing. We'll put links in the show notes to all that. Incredible content. You guys are doing amazing stuff. I was saying this before we hit record, but even some of what we've been building out at Deep Clean here lately, we've gleaned so much from you guys. We've been just so impressed, and you guys are doing something very special over there. So make sure you guys go check it out. Drew, God bless you, man, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Sathiya. I love you. I love Sean, and so glad we're doing this together.